Hello everybody! We are starting a new game today. This is, yet again, for the third time in a row, another game that I've been meaning to play for a long time in my spare time and just never got around to it. And so I thought, why not play it on stream? It'll be a great way to break up the little horror fest that we've been having the last week with Outlast and Bendy. So we're going to switch it up with a little bit of comedy. And this is one of those games that everybody knows. Everybody's heard of this game. And I'm really excited to play it because I hear it's hilarious. And yeah, I think we're just going to get started. So if people start showing up while we're streaming, that's awesome. But we're just going to get started right now. This is really trippy over here. All these screens within the screen. That's pretty cool. All right. The end is never the end, is never the end. The end is loading. We are loading the end. We just started the game.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Sounds like what I'm
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay, that's scary.
And
Because
then one day, something very peculiar happened.
I'm going to school for
Something
IT.
that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
So this might be a
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he
foresight
realized
to
that
my
not
future.
one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Maybe it's Christmas and he forgot that the office was closed. That seems like a good enough reasoning, especially since Christmas is actually just around the corner.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
All right. Well, Mr. Narrator.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
I feel like this game's gonna nag me if I try to explore things. And just the way I play games, I like to look around, but I have a feeling they really want me to go to the meeting room. Call it a hunch. Anything in here? Folder in here? Can I grab it? Alright, so pressing space, expecting to jump because that's what it was in the last two games, but I guess Stanley lacks lower body strength. Blazing up in
Stanley
there?
went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Wow, that's some passive aggressiveness right there. Just wanted to see what kind of fun stuff was going on in room 420. Alright, where is this meeting room? Really? See, I haven't played it and I've
When
heard...
Stanley
I've
came to
heard-
a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I've heard about this game many times. I know it's one of those popular comedy games. Actually, okay, so narrator said I went through the door on the left, but what's... Oh, I can't go back. I wanted to know what was on the door on the right. Maybe I should just try to do everything that the narrator, or the opposite of everything the narrator
Yet
says I'm
there was
going to
not
do.
a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
They have a whiteboard manager at this office building. Let's see, what's the schedule look like? We're broke Wednesdays. Pranking floor 5 meeting. Pre-review of weekly review. So, I feel like I've been sucked into an episode of The Office. Number of slides on this slide. What is hot? Profits, 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 profits. Jeez. This seems like it would be a fun place to work. They're pranking floors and making profit. I mean, sounds like a dream job. This is why I'm going to school for IT, because I want to work at a place just like this. Oh, broom closet.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
I get it, Mr. Narrator. You don't want me to have any fun. Maybe I just want to look around.
There was nothing here. No choice to make,
Okay,
no path to follow.
okay.
Just an empty broom closet. No reason. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
But he didn't. That's just it. The narrator was wrong. Stanley walked downstairs away from his boss's office.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
Hey, Garrett.
All of my co-workers blinking
Mod you, huh?
mysteriously out of existence in
Actually
a
don't have
single
any mods
moment
yet.
for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make
I
other
going in
strange
circles?
observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Huh.
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever
Why
he
are we
went?
in an infinite
And for
loop?
that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
Yeah, what the
Were they
heck?
simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found
Can
an
I go
answer,
back?
an explanation.
No.
His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying
Can I
and
fly
began
now?
to gently float above the ground.
Yes, we are flying.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley
Dude, we are
marveled
tripping
that he had still
hardcore.
not woken up. How
I
was
feel
he
like we
remaining
actually
so
did go
lucid?
into room
And
420.
then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Seriously.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts. he
Oh my
thought.
goodness, this is hurting
And
my
while he
head.
thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream.
Or a
Did the voice
nightmare.
not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control.
Stanley
that
is
this
on
was
that
a
next
dream.
level stuff.
So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited
Thanks for
himself
the
to wake
follow,
up.
Garrett.
He felt the
I
cool weight
appreciate
of the
that.
blanket on his skin, the
We've been
press of
streaming
the
a lot
mattress
today.
on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself.
So are we actually
I'm
asleep?
through with this dream.
Why do I feel like
I
that's
wish
not?
it to be over.
Why do I feel like that's
Let me
not
go
true?
back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Oh, well, we're still in the basement. So is it gonna stop
Stanley
looping
began
now?
screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
Everything's turning red.
And everything went black.
What? No, it went red. Oh, there we go.
This is the story of a woman named
Are
Mariella.
we already done with Stanley?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place
Bezels?
of work. But
You
on
mean
this particular
bevels?
day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she
Wait,
considered the
Stanley
strange
died?
man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind.
Okay,
I know what is real and
did we just
what
go down
isn't.
like a huge rabbit
It
trail
was
by
comforting
going
to think
downstairs
this,
instead of
and
upstairs?
in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Alright, so do we get to try that again then? Alright, so I guess this time we're going to go
All of his
upstairs
co-workers were gone.
when they tell
What
me to
could it
go
mean?
upstairs.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
That was the longest rabbit trail that I've ever been down.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I'm gonna go on through the right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
But I have a feeling that this is gonna take me on another red herring where we're gonna have to start
Yes,
over again.
Truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
This is the most boring recreation room I've ever seen in my whole life.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
It was worth it.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Okay, but what if I don't? I don't want to do what the narrator tells me to do.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
I hear that at my own job all the time. Well, this is...
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, Stop trying
This
to make
is
every
the
decision
Stanley
by
parable,
yourself.
not the
I'm
narrator
not asking
parable.
for me. I'm asking for her.
Oh. Oh, there's
This
a
is
lady
it, Stanley.
involved.
Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Oh. Hello?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
I don't know who's on the other end of that line. Is it my wife that he was talking about earlier? What if I just let it ring? Is he gonna yell at me some more? Hello?
Hey Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven.
We're back in our office again.
Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Whoa.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
I don't know if I should be laughing or
This is
screaming.
a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Okay.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Okay, before I press this key, at the beginning of the game, the narrator was drawling on about how Stanley has a boring job where all he does is follow directions and press keys that he's told to. So, when I try to break that norm by ignoring what the narrator is telling me I have to do, the narrator gets mad at me. So, what the heck? I'm just trying to give Stanley his own life.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
I feel like this game has some deep metaphors buried underneath
But in his
the
mind,
surface.
In his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Press N to watch TV.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job.
Where's the TV?
First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Uh-oh. Are they gonna have me start over again?
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
And then he went through the door he was told not to go through.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Oh. Tell your kids a story.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel
It's gonna
this
start me
free.
over. It's gonna start me
Surely
from the
there's an
beginning.
answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps
Okay, I
if he
get
played
it.
just
You want
one
me
more
to
time.
follow your directions.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Time for bed.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Okay. I kind of want to do it just to see what happens, but I'm gonna listen to his advice. I don't want to go to work in the morning. Luckily, I actually don't have to go to work in the morning, so I can stream late into the night. No, I'm not gonna push it. Not gonna push it. Not gonna do it. Achievement unlocked. You can't jump. Yeah, I've only been trying to jump for the last 20 minutes. Ah! I want to push it. I suddenly want to push it. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds or so. So, how was your guys' day today? I streamed a lot today. We played a lot of Bendy. And now we're playing this. But can you really call it playing? So far, it seems to be more like a walking simulator. Let's see what happens if I press L. Nope, nothing. Okay. I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna push it right now.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Question nothing.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time.
All right.
And I tried again.
Please
And
die.
Stanley pushed a button.
Oh, wow.
And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Are we dead? Is it going to be the same thing as last time? Where a woman finds us dead? Or are we just going to go back to our office? All right. So I think this time through, we're actually going to follow directions. Against my better judgment.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh. It's very interesting, though, how many different paths that the game can
Yet
take.
there was not a single person here either.
They,
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's
It's
office,
the illusion of
hoping
choice.
he might find an answer there.
It's kind of like...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
It's kind of like poking fun at games that seem like you have choice, but they're actually very linear. Alright, what's over here? Is this our boss's office? No. Unless his office is in the bathroom. Hello? I'd like to set up a meeting with the boss, please. Hello, Cyber Kako.
Stepping into
How
his
are you
manager's
today?
office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief
This is a classy
who orchestrated
office.
this. What dark secret was being held from him? What
I
he could
strive
not
to
have
have an
known
office like this
was that
one
the
day.
keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Nope. What if I do a wrong PIN number? Oh, 2845.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input
Lucky
the correct
guess.
code by sheer luck.
Oh.
Amazing.
Hello.
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
I'm getting some Portal vibes here. The behind the scenes of the office building. I guess that only makes sense. This uses the Source engine. So, it's gonna resemble Half-Life 2 and Portal.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Does this mean I can finally start making my own decisions? Is the narrator gonna get off my back?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large
Nope.
door that read Mind Control Facility.
Lovely. No secrets here.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Let me just end it all. I can't fit. I'm too fat. I can't fit. How was your day/night? It's been a good day. I'm a little tired because saw a movie late last night. But other than that, my day's been good. It's
Now the
been mostly
monitors
consistent of
jumped to life,
streaming.
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The
Oh.
lives of so many
What's going on with
individuals
this one?
reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Well, I saw Star Wars with a couple of nerds that I know from school and their friends. Just some losers. You wouldn't know them.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Man, this game's getting real.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never.
Never,
It
Garrett.
was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Mind control, huh? Is that how things get done at office buildings nowadays? Oh, come on. You can't give me a big red button and not expect me to want to push it. Really? Really? Is there anything down here? Should just cut the power to this area. This makes me think of that room from not Monsters Inc., The Incredibles.
And when
Where
at last
Mr.
he found the
Incredible gets
source
shot
of the
by all
room's
the
power, he knew it was his
sticky
duty,
ball things
his
that
obligation, to put an
expand.
end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
All right. We're at 30 minutes. So for the people watching on YouTube, I'm going to end this episode right here, and then we're going to get started in the next episode.